I'm sitting in divorce court, watching my husband's face turn white as his own voice plays through the courtroom speakers. The recording is crystal clear, him admitting to hiding assets, lying about his affair, and calling me too stupid to ever figure it out. His lawyer stops mid-sentence. The judge raises an eyebrow. And Marcus? Marcus looks like he's about to throw up. Your Honor, I say calmly, I have 17 more recordings just like this one. 6 months ago, I was the perfect wife who believed every lie, every excuse, every cruel word disguised as love. Today, I'm the woman who's about to take everything he thought he'd stolen from me. My name is Sarah, I'm 32, and this is how I destroyed the man who spent 8 years destroying me. But let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand who I was before I became who I am now. Comment below, have you ever felt completely blindsided by someone you trusted? Let me know, I read every single comment. 3 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I was 29, living in our beautiful house in Westfield, married to Marcus Chen for 5 years. He was a successful financial advisor with his own firm, and I was a marketing coordinator at a nonprofit. We looked perfect on paper, the kind of couple people envied at dinner parties. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the daughter of a single mother who cleaned houses to put me through college. Mom always told me, Sarah, you find yourself a good man who treats you right and you hold on to him. When I met Marcus during my senior year at State, I thought I'd found exactly that. He was charming, ambitious, 3 years older and already working in finance. He'd take me to nice restaurants, buy me thoughtful gifts, and talk about our future together like it was this beautiful painting he was creating just for us. We're going to have everything, Sarah, he'd say, holding my hand across candlelit tables. The house, the cars, kids, the whole dream. We got married 2 years after graduation. I was 24, absolutely glowing with happiness. Our wedding photos show this radiant bride who believed in fairy tales. I look at those photos now and want to shake that girl, warn her somehow. The first year was wonderful. We bought our first house. Well, Marcus bought it. He insisted on putting everything in his name because he had better credit, more stable income. It's just practical, babe, he'd say. We're married, what's mine is yours anyway, right? I was working at the nonprofit, making decent money, but nothing compared to his growing financial practice. When we talked about kids, he'd get this soft look in his eyes. I want you to be able to stay home with them, he'd say. My mom worked 3 jobs when I was little. I don't want that for our family. It sounded loving, it sounded like protection. By year 3, subtle changes started creeping in. He'd question my purchases, a $40 sweater, lunch with girlfriends, even groceries. We need to be smart with money, Sarah, I'm building something here. But then he'd come home with a new watch or golf clubs, and when I'd ask about it, he'd get defensive. That's different, that's for networking, it's an investment in our future. The isolation happened so gradually I didn't notice it at first. He'd make comments about my friends, how Lisa was dramatic, how Jenny was a bad influence, how my sister Kate was jealous of what we have. Slowly, I saw them less. When I did go out, he'd text constantly. Just checking in, miss you? When will you be home? I thought it was sweet. I told my friends he was just devoted. Sarah, that's not devotion, my sister Kate warned me during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. That's control. You don't understand our relationship, I'd snap back. Marcus just values family time. God, I was so naive. By year 5, I'd become this shadow version of myself. I asked permission for everything without realizing I was asking permission. I'd phrase things carefully. Do you think it would be okay if I? Or, I was wondering if maybe I could. The gaslighting was masterful. When I'd question something, why he was working so late, why he'd changed his phone password, why money was tight when his business was supposedly thriving, he'd turn it around on me. Sarah, you're being paranoid. I can't believe you don't trust me. This is exactly the kind of negativity that's holding us back. And somehow, I'd end up apologizing. Every time. I quit the nonprofit when I was 28. Marcus convinced me we could afford for me to pursue my dreams, maybe freelance marketing, write the blog I'd always talked about. What he really wanted was me home, available, dependent. The freelance work was sporadic. The blog never took off. Slowly, I had less money of my own, less independence. Everything ran through Marcus: the mortgage, the cars, the credit cards, even my phone plan. "It's just easier this way," he'd say. "I handle the finances, you handle the home." Except I wasn't just handling the home, I was disappearing into it. What would you do in this situation? Comment your thoughts. I love hearing your perspectives. The beginning of the end started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. It was a Tuesday morning in March. Marcus had left for work, or so I thought. I was in our home office, the spare room where I'd set up my freelance business, when I heard his voice from the kitchen. He must have forgotten something and come back. I was about to call out to him when I heard him say, "No, she has no idea. Trust me, Sarah's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed." I froze. The tone was different, cold, dismissive. This wasn't how Marcus talked about me to friends or family. "The account's completely hidden," he continued. "She thinks we're living paycheck to paycheck while I'm stashing away 15 grand a month. By the time this divorce goes through, she'll be lucky to get the house." Divorce, my heart stopped. Yeah, I know. I should have done this years ago. But Celia, baby, you know how these things go. I had to be strategic about it. Celia, I knew that name. Celia Rodriguez, his new business partner who joined his firm 6 months ago, the one he'd been working late with, the one he'd described as brilliant but completely professional. "The prenup's ironclad," he went on. "My lawyer made sure of that. She gets nothing from the business, minimal alimony, maybe half the house if she's lucky. Meanwhile, I've got the Cayman account, the cryptocurrency, the investment properties she doesn't know about." My legs gave out. I slumped into the desk chair, hand clamped over my mouth to keep from making a sound. "What? No, of course she doesn't suspect anything. You know Sarah, head in the clouds, always has been. She actually believes I'm building this life for us." His laugh was cruel, unfamiliar. "Honestly, it's almost too easy." The conversation continued for another few minutes. Details about hidden assets, forged documents, elaborate lies. My husband was systematically robbing me while planning to abandon me, and he thought it was funny. When I finally heard the front door close again, I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Then I sat on the bathroom floor and cried for an hour. Then I got angry. Actually, that's not accurate. First, I went through the classic stages. Denial, maybe I misheard, maybe it wasn't what it sounded like. Bargaining, maybe if I confronted him, we could work it out. Depression, how could I have been so stupid, so blind? But by evening, when Marcus came home with flowers and his usual charming smile, acting like the devoted husband, I'd landed firmly on rage. "How was your day, beautiful?" he asked, kissing my cheek like he hadn't spent his morning planning my financial destruction. "Fine," I managed. "How was yours?" "Oh, you know, same old boring meetings. Celia and I had to go over some quarterly reports, so tedious." He rolled his eyes dramatically. "I'd much rather be here with you." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't heard that phone call, I would have believed every word. That night, lying next to him in our bed, I stared at the ceiling and realized I was married to a complete stranger. The man I'd loved, the man I'd built my life around, didn't exist. He was a character Marcus had created to manipulate me. 8 years of my life. 8 years of love, trust, sacrifice, compromise. 8 years of becoming smaller and smaller to fit into his version of who I should be. And he thought I was too stupid to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Comment below, rate my husband on a scale of 1 to 10 for pure evil. I'll wait. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I made a plan without asking Marcus's opinion. I needed allies, I needed information, and I needed to be very, very careful. My first call was to my sister Kate. We'd grown distant over the years, mostly because Marcus always found reasons why I couldn't visit or why she couldn't come stay with us. But Kate was a paralegal at a law firm in Cleveland, and if anyone would know how to help me, it was her. "Sarah," she sounded surprised, "it's been months since you called." "I know, Kate, I need help. I can't explain over the phone, but Marcus isn't who I thought he was." There was a pause, then, "Thank God, I've been waiting 8 years for you to realize that." We agreed to meet that weekend. Marcus thought I was visiting Mom, technically true, since Kate and I would stop by Mom's house. But mostly, we'd be planning my escape. My second call was harder. Lisa Hoffman had been my best friend since college, but I'd barely seen her in 2 years. Marcus always had something to say about her. She was negative, jealous, not good for our marriage. I'd chosen my husband over my friendship so many times that I wasn't sure she'd even want to hear from me. Sarah, oh my god, hi. Lisa sounded genuinely happy, which made me feel even worse about neglecting our friendship. How are you? How's everything? Lisa, I started crying before I could get the words out. I think I've made a terrible mistake. Where are you? I'm coming over right now. No, I said quickly. Marcus will be home soon. Can we meet somewhere? 2 hours later, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, telling Lisa everything. She listened without judgment, occasionally reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I should have pushed harder, she said when I finished. I should have said something years ago when I saw how he was changing you. You tried, I admitted. I just wasn't ready to hear it. What do you need from me? And that's when I knew Lisa was a real friend. Not what are you going to do? Or are you sure? Just what do you need? The weekend trip to see Kate was eye-opening. Sitting at Mom's kitchen table, the three of us went through everything I could remember about our finances, Marcus's business, the changes in his behavior. Sarah, you need to document everything, Kate said. Hidden assets, secret accounts, evidence of infidelity, you need proof of all of it. How am I supposed to get proof? He keeps everything locked down. Kate exchanged a look with Mom. Honey, Mom said gently, he's not as smart as he thinks he is. Men like Marcus always slip up eventually. Your house has security cameras, right? Kate asked. Yes, but Marcus controls all of that. Does he know you know the password to his computer? I thought about it. I don't think so. He changed it a few months ago, but I saw him type it in. And his phone. He's gotten secretive about it, but I remembered something. He uses the same password for everything, always has, his birthday and our wedding year. Kate smiled grimly. Then we have a starting point. The plan we developed was simple but thorough. I would gather evidence slowly, carefully, without changing my behavior or giving Marcus any reason to suspect. Kate would research divorce lawyers. Lisa would be my emotional support and, if necessary, my witness. But the real test came with people I hadn't expected. The first was Marcus's mother, Helen. I'd always had a good relationship with her, or thought I did. When I carefully brought up some concerns about Marcus working so much, being stressed, maybe needing support, her response shocked me. Oh, sweetheart, she said with a patronizing smile, you know how ambitious Marcus is. You're so lucky to have a husband who works so hard to provide for you. Some wives don't appreciate that. It was a gentle reprimand, but a reprimand nonetheless. I was being ungrateful. I was being needy. I just worry about him, I persisted. He's been working such long hours with his new business partner. Celia? Oh, she's lovely, so professional. Marcus tells me she's really helping the firm grow. Helen's tone was casual, but something in her eyes suggested she knew more than she was saying. That night, I realized Helen had known about the affair all along. Maybe not the hidden assets, but definitely the affair. And she'd chosen her son over me, the daughter-in-law she'd claimed to love for 8 years. The next test was Marcus's best friend, Dave. Dave and his wife Jennifer had been fixtures in our lives since college. We'd been in their wedding, they'd been in ours. If anyone would be honest with me about Marcus's behavior, it should be Dave. I ran into him at the grocery store and decided to probe a little. Dave, how are you? I feel like we never see you guys anymore. Oh, you know how it is, everyone's so busy. He seemed uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. Marcus has been working so much lately. I barely see him. You guys should plan a golf weekend or something, get him to relax. Dave's face went red. Yeah, well, Marcus seems pretty relaxed these days. The way he said it told me everything. Dave knew about Celia too. Dave, I said carefully, if there was something I should know. You'd tell me, right? We've been friends for almost a decade. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, Sarah, look, it's not my place, but maybe you should have a conversation with your husband. It wasn't the betrayal Helen's knowing smile had been, but it was still a betrayal. Dave knew Marcus was cheating on me, and he'd chosen his friendship with Marcus over doing the right thing. The person who surprised me most was my neighbor, Patricia. She was an older woman, maybe 65, who I'd exchanged pleasantries with for years but never really knew well. One morning, she approached me while I was getting the mail. "Sarah, dear, are you all right? You look tired." "Oh, I'm fine, just haven't been sleeping well." She looked around, then stepped closer. "Honey, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but that woman who's been coming to your house when Marcus's car isn't there? She doesn't look like a cleaning lady." My blood ran cold. What woman? Pretty, dark hair, drives a red BMW. She's been by several times in the last month. Always when your husband's not home. I thought maybe you should know. Celia had been in my house multiple times when Marcus wasn't home. When? I asked. Last Tuesday around noon, Thursday afternoon, and yesterday she was there for almost 2 hours. Yesterday, when Marcus was supposedly at a client meeting across town. Patricia reached out and touched my arm. "I'm sorry, dear, I debated whether to say anything, but if it were me, I'd want to know." And that's when I realized the most important thing about this whole nightmare. The people who really cared about me were willing to risk an uncomfortable conversation to protect me. The people who were supposed to love me, Marcus, Helen, Dave, had all chosen the easier path. It clarified everything. Comment your city if you have a neighbor like Patricia. We need more people like her in the world. By May, I had enough evidence to bury Marcus 10 times over. Kate had connected me with an investigator named Janet Morrison, a former police detective who specialized in financial fraud and infidelity cases. What I learned from Janet's report was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus hadn't just been hiding money, he'd been stealing it. From our joint accounts, from my freelance earnings, even from the small inheritance I'd received when my grandfather died 2 years ago. Money I thought had gone toward house repairs and investments had been funneled into accounts I didn't know existed. The cryptocurrency alone was worth over $200,000. The affair with Celia had been going on for 8 months, not 6. They'd taken trips together, vacations I'd paid for through our joint account while thinking Marcus was at business conferences. And the real kicker? He'd already filed preliminary divorce papers. His lawyer was just waiting for the right time to serve them to me. Marcus was planning to blindside me completely. The recordings I'd been making were even better than I'd hoped. Modern phones have amazing audio quality, and Marcus had gotten comfortable being cruel when he thought I wasn't listening. I had him admitting to financial fraud, discussing hidden assets, mocking me to Celia, even laughing about how easy it had been to manipulate me. My favorite was from 3 weeks earlier. He was on the phone with his lawyer, and I was supposedly in the shower. "No, she'll never see it coming. Sarah's completely dependent on me financially and emotionally. She doesn't have the backbone to fight back, and she definitely doesn't have the resources. This will be the easiest divorce you've ever handled." Wrong on all counts. The confrontation happened on a Thursday evening in late May. Marcus came home from work, actually a hotel room with Celia, according to the text messages Janet had recovered, with his usual performance of being tired but happy to see me. "How was your day, beautiful?" The same question, the same fake smile. But instead of my usual "fine," I said, "Interesting, I learned a lot." Something in my tone made him pause. "Oh, what did you learn?" I was sitting at our kitchen island, looking calm and composed. I'd practiced this moment in my head 100 times. "I learned that the Cayman Islands account you opened last year is actually in both our names, even though you told the bank I'd signed the paperwork. That's identity theft, Marcus." His face went pale. "Sarah, what are you?" "I learned that Celia Rodriguez has been in our house 17 times in the last 2 months. Our security system keeps very detailed logs." "You don't understand." "I learned that you've been transferring money out of our joint accounts for 8 months, including the $15,000 from my grandfather's estate. That's theft." Marcus tried to recover his composure. This was the moment he usually turned things around on me, made me the problem. "Sarah, you're being paranoid again. This is exactly the kind of..." I held up my phone and pressed play. His own voice filled the kitchen. "Trust me, Sarah's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed." I let it play for 30 seconds, then stopped it. I have hours of recordings, Marcus. Hours. You admitting to fraud, discussing hidden assets, planning to leave me with nothing. My personal favorite is the one where you tell Celia that I'm too stupid to ever figure it out. He was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Who are you? He whispered. I'm your wife, I said calmly. The woman you've been systematically robbing and emotionally abusing for 3 years. The woman you thought was too stupid to fight back. He tried one more time to regain control. Sarah, if you just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I have bank records, recordings, photographs, witness statements, and a forensic accountant's report. I know about every hidden account, every lie, every time you brought your girlfriend into our home. I stood up and walked around the island until I was right in front of him. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack a bag and leave this house tonight. You're going to stay away from me, stay away from our joint accounts, and pray that I don't decide to press criminal charges for the identity theft and financial fraud. You can't throw me out of my own house. Actually, I can, because this house isn't just yours, Marcus, and I've already changed the locks. I pulled a key from my pocket and placed it on the counter. This is for the guest house out back. You can stay there tonight to pack your things. After that, you can stay with Celia. I'm sure she'd love to have you. For the first time in 8 years, Marcus Chen was speechless. Oh, and Marcus, I smiled sweetly, you should probably call your lawyer. You're going to need a very good one. What would you have said in this moment? Comment below. I love reading your responses. The divorce proceedings were supposed to be Marcus's moment of triumph. According to his original plan, he would have served me papers, I would have been shocked and devastated, and his expensive lawyer would have steamrolled me into accepting whatever scraps they offered. Instead, I showed up to our first mediation session with Kate, Janet Morrison, and a shark of a divorce attorney named Rebecca Santos, who specialized in high-asset divorces involving financial fraud. Marcus's face when we walked in was priceless. Sarah, his lawyer, Mr. Hartwell, began in that patronizing tone. Men like him perfect. We're here to discuss a reasonable settlement that acknowledges your husband's significantly greater contribution to the marital assets. Rebecca cut him off. Before we begin, we need to discuss the 17 felonies your client has committed during the marriage. She slid a folder across the table. Identity theft, financial fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. We have documentation for all of it. I watched Marcus realize that his perfect plan had become his perfect nightmare. The next 3 months were beautiful in their justice. First, Marcus had to account for every hidden asset. The Cayman account, the cryptocurrency, the investment properties he'd bought with money stolen from our joint accounts. All of it had to be disclosed and divided. Since he'd acquired most of it through fraud, the court ordered it to be split 70-30 in my favor. Second, the affair became a factor in alimony calculations. Marcus had spent marital funds on his relationship with Celia, hotel rooms, jewelry, trips. The court classified this as dissipation of marital assets and awarded me additional compensation. Third, and most satisfying, was what happened to his business reputation. See, when you're a financial advisor, your clients trust you with their money based on your character and judgment. When word got out about Marcus's financial fraud, hidden assets, and systematic deception, his clients started asking uncomfortable questions. I didn't have to say anything. The court documents were public record. The forensic accountant's report was thorough and damning. Marcus's own recorded admissions of fraud spoke for themselves. Within 6 weeks of our first court appearance, Marcus had lost 40% of his clients. The house, our beautiful, perfect house that he'd put in his name to protect it, went to me entirely. Turns out that when you commit financial fraud to pay the mortgage, the innocent spouse gets to keep the asset. Marcus had to move in with Celia earlier than they'd planned. Romantic, right? But the sweetest justice wasn't financial, it was personal. Remember Helen, Marcus's mother, who'd known about the affair and treated me like an ungrateful wife? She called me 3 weeks after Marcus moved out. Sarah, I had no idea things were so bad between you two. Marcus always said you were just going through a rough patch. Lies, I had recordings of Marcus telling her about his plans to get rid of Sarah and start fresh with Celia. Helen, I said calmly, you knew about Celia, you knew about the affair. You chose to protect Marcus instead of telling me the truth. I thought maybe it would blow over. You thought it was easier to let your son destroy my life than to have an uncomfortable conversation with him. She started crying. Sarah, please, you're like a daughter to me. No, I said firmly. A mother protects all her children, not just the ones who can't handle consequences. You made your choice. I never spoke to Helen again. Dave, Marcus's best friend who knew about the affair but stayed silent, reached out after the divorce was finalized. He wanted to clear the air and explain his position. I was stuck in the middle, Sarah. Marcus is my oldest friend, but I never wanted to see you get hurt. Dave, you weren't stuck in the middle. You were complicit. You knew he was cheating and chose to protect him instead of protecting me. That's not being stuck, that's taking a side. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. When you see someone being hurt and you stay silent, you're helping the person doing the harm. Dave tried to argue, but I hung up. Some people will always choose the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth. But the real victory, 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I ran into Celia at the grocery store. She looked tired, stressed. Her hair was different, shorter, less styled. She was wearing yoga pants and a t-shirt instead of her usual polished business attire. Sarah, she said awkwardly, how are you? I'm great, Celia, really great, how are you? She hesitated. Things are challenging. I could have been cruel. I could have mentioned that Marcus's business was struggling, that his reputation was shot, that his client base had evaporated. I could have asked how it felt to get exactly what she'd wanted only to discover it wasn't worth having. Instead, I said, well, you got what you fought for. I hope it makes you happy. And I walked away. Because that's the thing about real revenge. It's not about making other people suffer. It's about taking back your power and letting natural consequences do the rest. Rate this level of petty justice 0-10. I'll wait for your scores. It's been 2 years since my divorce was finalized, and I barely recognize the woman I used to be. I'm writing this from my home office, the same room where I first heard Marcus planning my destruction. But now it's actually an office, not a pretend space where I played at having a career. My marketing consultancy has 12 clients and a waiting list. I'm making more money than I ever did at the nonprofit, and every penny of it is mine. The house feels completely different too. I had it redecorated, new paint, new furniture, new energy. The security cameras that once made me feel trapped now make me feel safe. This is my space, my sanctuary, my kingdom. Lisa and I have dinner every Tuesday. She never says, I told you so, but sometimes she looks at me with this proud smile that says everything. My sister Kate visits once a month, and we're closer now than we've been since childhood. We laugh about how she always knew Marcus was wrong for me, but never pushed too hard. I knew you'd figure it out eventually, she told me last Christmas. You just had to be ready to see it. Mom was right too. Men like Marcus always slip up eventually. Their arrogance becomes their downfall. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Marcus's business never recovered. He had to close his firm and take a job at a larger company, essentially starting over at 41. Celia left him about 8 months after I did. Apparently, a man who would systematically deceive and rob his wife isn't the most trustworthy boyfriend. Who could have predicted that? Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about how completely his life fell apart. Then I remember 8 years of being made to feel small, stupid, worthless. I remember the recordings where he laughed about manipulating me. I remember how he planned to leave me with nothing while making me believe he loved me. No, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. The woman I am now would never tolerate being questioned about a $40 sweater. She would never apologize for having opinions or dreams. She would never ask permission to see her friends or visit her family. The woman I am now knows her worth, and it's not negotiable. I'm dating someone new, David, not Dave, and it's completely different from my relationship with Marcus. David encourages my friendships, celebrates my successes, and has never once made me feel like I need to become smaller to fit into his life. When I told him about Marcus, his response was simple. That man was an idiot. His loss is my gain. But here's the most important thing I learned. I didn't need David to save me from Marcus. I didn't need Kate or Lisa or Rebecca Santos or even the evidence to save me. I saved myself. The scared, isolated woman who heard that phone call 2 years ago found her strength. She made a plan. She gathered allies. She documented everything. She walked into that courtroom with her head held high and demanded justice. And she got it. Sometimes at night, I sit in my backyard, MY backyard, with a glass of wine and think about the girl who got married at 24, so sure she'd found her happily ever after. I'm not angry at her anymore. She was young and trusting and full of hope. Those aren't bad qualities. She just gave them to the wrong person. The right person would have treasured them. The right person would have protected them. The right person would have spent 8 years building her up instead of tearing her down. Now I know the difference. If you're reading this and seeing pieces of your own life, the questioning, the isolation, the feeling that you're losing yourself, please know that you're stronger than you think. You're smarter than they want you to believe. And you deserve so much more than what you're accepting. It might take time to find your strength. It might take longer to make your plan. But when you're ready, when you've had enough, when you decide that anything is better than staying small, that's when you'll discover what you're really capable of. I thought Marcus was my fairy tale. Turns out I was my own. And that's the best kind of happy ending there is. Rate this story 0-10 in the comments below. And if you've ever found the strength to leave a toxic situation, share your story. I'd love to hear it. Remember, you are stronger than you know, and you deserve better than anyone who makes you forget that. Thank you for reading my story. If it resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories of strength, survival, and sweet, sweet justice. Your support means everything.